and welcome back to the Hero Gauntlet, Beowulf Edition. So let's look at our two contestants. Our first one is the hero of the Danes, the defeater of Grendel, Beowulf, versus the cursed man, the servant of Mephisto, Ghost Rider. So let's look at Beowulf's deck here. So Beowulf, remember, has that rage mechanic. Whenever he takes damage, he earns that rage to be able to spend on his cards for adverse effects, dealing damage, as well as forcing card discard from his opponents. As Ghost Rider now is able to use his Hellfire to get around the board much more efficiently, dealing some direct damage, but as well as able to use the Hellfire to boost up his attacks and defenses, as well as being able to maneuver around the board and get to that place much more quicker. So here we are so far within the game. Beowulf is 1-1. Let's see how well he does. So here we are in the first round here against Ghost Rider, playing on Tabletop Simulator here. And as you can see, we have the map of Hurat, which is Beowulf's home map. And it has an interesting door mechanic where you get to move through a space and place a door behind you, or it would cost one movement in order to open the door to get to the other side. So here I am, I'm placing down Wiglaf. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do on my first move here. And I decided to go right after Ghost Rider. I really want to put the pressure on him right from the gates, because I know that Ghost Rider typically has very few defense cards. Even though he has that nice 17 health, he is going to be susceptible to some attacks. I would say more so once his Hellfire numbers go down. So I decided to go after him with Wiglaf to see what he had in his hand, to see what he would do. So I decided to use Fatal Struggle. It's one of the only cards I can use with Wiglaf on attack. And I'm trying to feel out his defenses. If he throws down something big, then he gets to do some card draw. Otherwise, I get card draw, and I have a few defenses no matter what. He throws down Control the Demon against my Fatal Struggle, which will easily block all that damage. And he's going to be forced to draw 2 cards. So he's going to fill up his hand, and he's going to discard his Control the Demon. So with this said, though, it is interesting to note that there is some strategy here, because Ghost Rider has to worry about dealing damage to Beowulf, and Beowulf gets a really nice exchange if he only takes 1 damage per attack or per whatever. So the thing is that he's able to gain a rage right here just through the Hellfire usage on the maneuver as he blazes by. And he does deal damage to Wiglaf as well. But now he's kind of setting himself up right next to Beowulf for a nice meaty attack. So let's see what happens here as he's kind of preparing what he wants to do. We can kind of see he's like looking at some of his, capabilities with his movement and things of that nature. I've already dealt the damage to Beowulf and Wiglaf. And now he's going to go in and kind of play a card here. I have to kind of configure what I want to do on defense. I can use a big defense with Skirmish and save my feints for later, just in case he decides to kind of throw down some other cards with abilities. I was just showing him there where he can kind of flip over his Hellfire tokens. And now let's see what he's going to kind of throw down here on attack. I have, obviously, my 2 options for defense, so let's see what ends up coming my way at this point. Alright. He throws down an attack. I'm kind of contemplating what I want to do. I decided to go with the feint just to see if there's any kind of additional actions or anything like that. And it's a Penance Stare. Really useful feint to go against that, to take just the 1 damage from the attack, which kind of what ended up really helping me in that case. I was able to fill up on my rage, and now I have the Golden Drinking Horn, and I'm already down a few a few health points here, so I could utilize the Golden Drinking Horn to get that nice healing, as well as refill my hand right next to him. So I decided to use it. I decided to use the Golden Drinking Horn. I don't want to use all of the effects, because I still want to keep a rage just in case. I end up drawing 2 cards. I'll recover my 2 health, and then I'm able to put that back into my discard there. So it gave me an additional defense. I'm still at 1 rage, so the thing is that I'm not going to be able to use that Equal of Grendel right away. But I am going to go after him with an attack, just to see if I can kind of pull out any other big defenses, things of that nature. He throws down. And we got a nice, the Wicked Will Burn, as I go after him with my Epic Poem. He is going to take a damage because I'm going to gain a gain a rage from Epic Poem, which will then make my attack a 4, therefore going over that the Wicked Will Burn by 1, so he's going to take a damage for that. Sadly, he's not going to be able to gain the 2 Hellfire from the ability on the card, but it does, you know, stave off a lot of damage. So I'm just kind of figuring out what I want to do here. That practically ends my turn now, as I used the scheme and kind of played my attack. So now I'm just going to wait and see what he comes down with for Ghost Rider. He's got 5 cards in hand, so let's see what we got here. So, as we're kind of raging out outside this door by Hiorat, comes after me, I decide to defend with my Equal of Grendel now, because I have the 2 rage. And I decide to put down Equal of Grendel, which immediately it's going to deal 2 damage to him. Using his Blaze of Glory card, I'm just going to, you know, pay 2. And I'm going to deal 2 damage right back to Ghost Rider. So this way, this helps me out at least get some of that additional damage onto him. This is what really makes Beowulf a very versatile fighter. He's able to deal direct damage on defense. He's able to use schemes to pull cards out of your opponent's hand. He has a lot of versatility, I feel like, for a melee fighter, which is pretty awesome. And then he ends up using his Blaze of Glory to deal 2 damage to Wiglaf, who was in his zone. I do remember the conversation on this one. He was like, "Oh shoot, I really messed this one up." But I did tell him, I said, remember, on the card you deal damage to yourself as well when you do that. So it is kind of funny. He's like, "Oh, that stinks." And I'm like, "Yeah." So that is the thing with the card. But if it is your turn, and you obviously it would be your turn using that on attack. But if you do that on your turn and you would be defeated, you actually still win the game, considering it is your turn. So the thing is that Blaze of Glory can still get you a victory, even though it may take down Ghost Rider with you. Hence the name of the card. I was trying to configure some things with my camera, but decided to move on from that. I've been trying to keep track of the deck sizes as well, just to make sure that I can keep that for statistics. So let's see what we got here. So we got Wiglaf moving up by 2. I kind of pushed them further on that eastern end of my mead hall there. I decide to move Beowulf within it, and I'm not really using the door card mechanic just as of yet. I really could have used it to try to stave off some of the damage that Ghost Rider would have dealt to me, but those are things in hindsight you kind of realize. But as you can see here, I'm kind of positioning myself in this nice little area. We got Ghost Rider, who is on the far end there. I think he's kind of contemplating what he wants to do here, if he wants to get closer, kind of position himself in a nice spot. I think he decides to stay on that edge right there, just so he can be able to just jump right into the mead hall if he needs to. And he ends up playing Chains of Hellfire, which is what pretty much resets your Hellfire to 5. So it's just kind of a nice recharge. He's able to use all 5, and then now he's able to set that back to 5, which is pretty cool. That was probably the perfect play for him there, kind of setting himself up and getting all that Hellfire. So for me, I'm trying to figure out if I want to go after him or just, maneuver myself, because I can fill up my hand to 7 if I want to. And I'm, kind of contemplating that because Beowulf will burn through his hand pretty quickly. So let's see here. I think I kind of move up behind Wiglaf. Yeah, I kind of move back behind Wiglaf here. The reason for this being is that I wanted, if Ghost Rider was going to move through me, I wanted him to be, like, right next to me. So if he was going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, he would have to end his turn, that maneuver, right next to me. So if he ended up wanting to maneuver away to get way far away from me, he would literally have to use another Hellfire, which was kind of my hopes at that point. I'm fine with taking damage at this point because I'm at full health. Taking 1 damage, like I said, for Beowulf is incredible. Is an incredible trade-off for him. He'd rather just take 1 damage. If it's like 5, 6 damage, you're only getting 1 rage. Yeah, it doesn't really bode well for you. So he deals the damage to me by moving through me and deals the damage to Wiglaf. And obviously contemplating if he wants to come in and attack me. He ends up doing so. And I'm kind of going back and forth if I want to defend this or not. I decided to go after it with another skirmish to see if I am able to block some big damage. And I am. I'm able to block 3 damage from that attack. He has the ability to spend 2 Hellfire to gain an action. So he just has to contemplate if he wants to use that additional action just to maneuver away, to get out of dodge, in which he does, after I do skirmish him away. Because my hopes was that he wouldn't use the 2 Hellfire to gain the action to attack me again, because I would be left with no defenses after that. So he does that. He maneuvers again just to get out of the area. And he's relatively far away. I kind of put himself in that position. I could have just moved him 1 space through the doorway, but I end up moving him 2 spaces away, which kind of hurt me in the long run, I feel like. But either way, he would be outside of one maneuver's distance. I decided to discard to boost, and I end up moving Wiglaf right next to him. And I wanted Beowulf yet again to... I was trying to figure out where I wanted to position him if he decided to move through Wiglaf. So I was kind of like trying to configure if I want to be like a space away from Wiglaf. So if he moves through Wiglaf, he would have to either move back and get out of that space, or try to, kind of figure it out from there. I wanted to make sure that if he did move through me, that he would have to end right next to me. That was kind of like my big ploy. I kind of put myself there, and then I believe I end up kind of changing my mind and putting Beowulf right outside the door. Yeah, I kind of end up just changing my mind. The reason for that being is that, like, having Beowulf right there is kind of nice to basically get within the mead hall and be able to get out relatively quickly. So then I throw down Remnant of Valor, which deals the damage to Ghost Rider, but as well as to Beowulf. But yet again, remember, the trade-off is really good when it's 1 damage. So, and I gain an action because of that card, which is pretty sweet. So I go after Ghost Rider here with a Fatal Struggle with Wiglaf. Now, the thing is, the main purpose behind this is just to refill my hands, give myself some more options. And I am successful. I'm able to get 1 damage over Escape from Hell card, which enables me, in order to, like I said, refill my hands, get some more options available at that point in time, and see what I can actually potentially do at this point. Like, obviously I don't have any Wiglaf cards besides the feints, and I'd rather use those feints on defense than offense at this point. So he comes after me. I know I have to figure out something with Wiglaf, so I decide to defend with feint in the hopes that he's going to throw something small, but he doesn't. the Spirit of Vengeance comes in, and he takes a big 3 damage, which really was very helpful for him. But he does not get his card draw, which is what he was really hoping for, with only 3 cards in hand. It's going to leave him with very few options on defense if I decide to come after him on my turn. So he attacks me again. Am I contemplating what to do? Do I use a defensive card for Wiglaf? He's at 2 health. But if I am able to keep him alive, it's something. And even if he uses a Spirit of Vengeance, I can potentially stop him from drawing cards. So with that said, I do take 1 more damage with Wiglaf. He has 1 health left. So now he's super susceptible to his Hellfire Maneuver ability, which is kind of, probably going on, within Ghost Rider's head right now. That he's going to be able to take Wiglaf out. The nice thing about this is that, with Wiglaf gone, I'll be able to use Wiglaf cards to boost my maneuvers. The problem being, though, is that Ghost Rider, if he can maintain his Hellfire, will be a menace for Beowulf if he can't keep up with him with his boosted maneuvers. So as we see here, I decided to go with Vigor and Courage. I really want to pull out more cards out of his hand. He only has 2 cards. I decided to choose the one to the right, or to my opponent's left. So I decided to choose that card. He eventually takes that card, he pulls it out, and it ends up being a Blaze of Glory, which actually kind of helped me out, and I was able to gain that rage. So I'm at max 3 rage, which is very useful for me right now. And I do have the potential chance now to use the nice Golden Drinking Horn, which I think I'm going to use 2 of those abilities yet again to draw 2 cards and to heal myself to recover 2 health. I do have War King on defense, and because I used 2 of that rage, I still have 1 left over to make it a 3 defense if I'm able to do so. So we're kind of looking into this here. We'll see what my opponent decides to do. How they're going to attack me or not. So now I have Wiglaf there. They have 1 card in hand. So I know they're probably just going to go for the maneuvers at this point. But I do have the Ancient Heirloom. I think it's Hunting in the story. His Masterful Sword. And he's able to maneuver through me with his Hellfire. I go down to 0 health. We remove Wiglaf from the board. And sadly, I am out a sidekick. This is very hurtful for me, but to be honest, Wiglaf is not... I feel like sometimes Wiglaf is not meant to last that long on the board because he doesn't have many defenses to take care of him. He does have that meaty 9 health, but he could be easily eaten through, just like what you saw there with Ghost Rider. So going into this, we're kind of seeing a contemplation about what to do next. Ghost Rider maneuvers away, and we kind of see this kind of cat and mouse game going on at this point. As now I really would like to get to Ghost Rider before they start, picking up more cards in hand. So I decided to use Vigor and Courage again. Hopefully gonna pick up another big card. I decided to go for the middle card, and the middle card ends up being a... Ooh, Hell rides with me. So I'm able to get my full rage now, up to 3 rage from that 1 card. And he has 2 cards left in hand for defense. I really want to kind of be more centrally located with Beowulf to ensure that I can be around if necessary. But I think at this point in time, I was trying to stay away from Ghost Rider in the hopes that I don't get, bombarded with a lot of attacks. The reason for that being is I only have War King on defense. I can't be really getting too aggressive at this point. I need to have some options on defense as we get closer and closer to each other. So he's able to move Ghost Rider and just maneuver twice over into that area. For me, I'm just kind of checking the, you know, how much cards are kind of left in the deck sort of deal. And we can kind of see that there's, you know, kind of this standoff down this alleyway on the side of Hero Rot. And the thing is that Beowulf is burning. I am burning through my deck with Beowulf. It is pretty dire straits at this point. And I decided to move inside the tavern. And I decided to put a doorway there just to make him a little bit slower on that end if he wanted to go that way. But of course he could obviously just loop around quite easily. But yet again, I really want to make sure that he would end his turn right next to me if he does use his maneuvered ability. So let's see here. He maneuvers over there. I think he just is trying to just refill his hand at this point. He's able to use the Chains of Hellfire to reset his Hellfire yet again. Now let's see here. And now let's go into the halftime report. So let's see here. Beowulf with 2 combat damage, 4 direct damage. It looks like a more of a direct damage fight, folks. A lot of damage blocked, but that nice health recovered and schemes played. But only 10 cards left in the deck for Beowulf. Let's see what happens. So now into the second half of the fight. I decided to boost my maneuver with Beowulf. Maybe I don't. Oh yeah, I realized at this point I didn't need to boost my maneuver. I can just maneuver once just right next to him. And we can see here that I try to stay near the center within the mead hall because I know that if you go on the outskirts, it could be a little bit devastating. So I go after him with his feint. I deal 1 damage over the feint. And no contest expected is really actually not too bad just to kind of bait out some of those cards. It's kind of essentially Beowulf's regroup, just kind of like this card that can bait those things out. It's just a nice 3 value attack. As we can see here, I'm kind of contemplating what I would like to do with Beowulf, but I think I just want to keep him in the center there near the mead hall. Meanwhile, Ghost Rider has to decide if they want to retaliate. They only got 3 cards in hand compared to my 6. So the thing is that they are definitely in a deficit here with the amount of cards that they have in hand. But let's see what they actually decide to go with. They end up going through me again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So he goes onto the other side within the tavern around that large table. And for me, I take a damage. I'm able to build up my rage. I think he was starting to notice that like I was getting more and more rage. And he just felt like, oh, if I can just deal damage when he's already at max rage, then he's not going to be able to gain a lot of value out of that, which actually is pretty true. When you're maxed out in rage and you just keep taking damage, it really does nothing for you. You really want to use those rage abilities whenever you can. So he maneuvers again, just trying to get through that area right there. I, on the other hand, got another Fatal Struggle, but I am kind of wary about going through my deck too fast. So I want to get to Ghost Rider, so I end up using Hot for the Battle, which is gives me a nice little boost of movement over towards him. And now I'm going to go right in there and attack Ghost Rider. I got a nice 3 defense cards as well. I go right after him with the Ancient Heirloom. What's really kind of nice about this is he has 4 Hellfire, so he does block 4 damage. And I can use 2 Rage in order to bring it up to a 5 value and then be able to boost it afterwards. So what I end up doing is I end up doing exactly that. I use all my 3 Rage. I discard War King to deal 4 damage to Ghost Rider. Huge hit. Huge hit. So now I'm kind of contemplating, if anything, I have no more rage in hand, so I know I have to build up my rage again. But as well as the fact to make sure to have 2 to use Equal of Grendel. So Skirmish is going to be really nice there in order to block some big attacks. But the potential chance of gaining Equal of Grendel is just too great to pass up. So he did maneuver through me in order to give me a rage, and now he has a potential chance to do it again, but he would rather go and attack me right away. I could go and defend this, and, you know, but I want to save my Equal of Grendels for anything that would be worthwhile. I end up using Skirmish, and I block all the damage coming at me, and I get to move him or myself up to 2 spaces. I decided to move him into that back corner of the meat hall just to try to get some distance between me and him. So that way it would kind of, I thought, would discourage him from gaining an action. Whenever I do those scenarios to try to gain actions, I kind of try to do them in order to set myself up for another attack that round. But he decides to use Hell Rides with me, and with that said, he's able to get himself moved around the board and gains another action. Kind of annoying here. So he's got 3 rage, and he comes after me. And I only have 1 rage, so I have 12 health at this point. I'm feeling pretty good, so I just let him attack me, and I take 3 damage, which I very much lucked out on. It could have been a nice meaty 5 Spirit of Vengeance, something of that nature. And now it goes on to my turn. I have to contemplate what I want to use. If I use Fatal Struggle, I could potentially draw more cards, but I already have a very low amount left in my deck, which then will pull out the Fatigue mechanic, where I would take 2 damage from every card I would draw, which is not good. So let's see here with Beowulf. I end up moving, attacking right back at Ghost Rider, and he feints it, and pretty much takes no damage. Epic Poem is fully negated by feint, which is, you know, which kind of sucks. But it does make sense in some ways if you kind of think about it, to ensure that his dexterity is able to match up with anybody else's. So, looking at this, trying to figure out where I'm going to move Beowulf. End up moving him again into a more central location. That's pretty much where I would like to be, is in a more central location. So let's see what we got here. Ghost Rider's, he's going to have Ghost Rider move through me again. I take a damage. I'm able to build up my rage, so I'm actually ready with Equal of Grendel. I got 2 copies in hand. It's looking pretty good for me. And they have 4 Hellfire at this point. So I'm really contemplating if I want to go after them with the Fatal Struggle. I still have the defenses on my side, and, you know, Equal of Grendel, no matter what's going to happen, that attack is going to deal damage. So that is something that, you know, just to kind of paint a picture with. And Ghost Rider runs away. It's kind of like they're just going on this, you know, little circle ride around the around Tiarat. So let's see here. Yeah, again, trying to keep that more centrally located distance, because that way Beowulf can be able to keep up with the distance that's made with Ghost Rider. I'm able to maneuver a few times. I'm able to get Vigor and Courage, which is going to help me be able to lower that hand even further, so that way I can attack against potentially no defense, which would be amazing as Beowulf. So going to, again, I decide to kind of move some of the doors away, trying to open up some of these entryways here, and I'm trying to see what my friend is going to do from this point forward. he tries to come up through the back. Oh, and then goes up there. And it ends up putting the door behind him in a way of protecting him against me. He ends up on that space, dealing another damage to me, kind of overkilling it right now with the rage, which is kind of a solid strategy to use with Ghost Rider against Beowulf. He can still deal that damage, but it provides him with no other additional benefit, which is pretty useful. So I do have those nice equal of Grendels. I just need to get Ghost Rider to attack me. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. I decide to maneuver. I use Fatal Struggle and boost it to try to get all the way up to the front where he is. Fatal Struggle is going to hurt me more than help me at this point. So then I go after Ghost Rider. If you're kind of wondering why it's kind of useless, it's mostly because of card draw that you can get from it, and I'm already very low in my deck with card draw. So then, here we go. I go in for the attack against Ghost Rider. I'm full out on Rage. They end up using 3 defense as Control the Demon. I go in with my War King. Now, I can make that a max 7 attack, which, for the most part, I feel like is the best thing to do at this point, just to be able to deal as much damage as possible. So I'm able to deal roughly around 4 points of damage, which is pretty huge for me, yet again. So weakening him, bringing him down further and further and further, practically down to 1 health remaining. So he's kind of going to start getting desperate at this point in time. So he starts moving around over in that direction there. So he goes on that north end of Hurot. We're trying to look here and see like what's going to happen. I feel like he's just trying to maneuver around to try to fatigue me out. And I think that's been kind of the play. He has a few extra cards in his deck than I do. So it is a pretty solid strategy in order to try to wait me out and just literally have Beowulf fatigue. But I decided to try to keep the aggression going. I need to keep him on his toes, dealing more and more damage. I had some massive blows here with some big 4 damage hits. So I'm just trying to see here if I can actually get a few more that might be able to close out this game. So let's see here. We got a door closed right in the face. We got Ghost Rider on one side. We got Beowulf on the other. And then there's the Vigor and Courage that starts to come out. So I bring up Vigor and Courage, trying to hopefully make a nice big pull towards that. So I end up going over to his cards. I'm able to pull out a... Ooh, Deal with the Devil. So that potentially got rid of a big defense card for him to use with Hellfire to increase the value of his defense. So that is really big for me, especially for the aggro players, that those are the cards you really want to pull. Are those cards that are going to give more resources and more, tools of the trade to that person. So let's see here. They move on to the far end there, on the far east end. They decide to get that nice maneuver, get some of that card draw. And then they come up through the back side of the Mead Hall. They're coming in to kind of get set up to attack me. For me, it kind of sucks because I don't have Remnant of Valor anymore. That could have been a really cool card to be able to use right now. But I do understand that, without Wiggloff, it's kind of useless. So I have to figure out how I'm going to deal with this. They got a bunch of defense cards. I really don't have any attacks per se, so I go after him with this skirmish. He's able to defend with a Penance Stare, which is going to deal 0 damage to him. I'm not going to be able to move him around the board, And it just kind of sucks because, you know, that's what just ended up happening. So we're going on to the next one here. Let's see. I'm kind of checking, you know, how many cards are left in the deck. It was pretty sizable at first, but I've been trying to reduce my numbers with that, which, you know, he started to become a little bit more liberal with his numbers, so he ended up losing a lot more people than he thought he had, so. Alright, so I'm able to take another damage, which is another nice trade-off for Beowulf. And he's coming in after me. He's coming in hot. Pun intended. I decide to throw down equal of Grendel. I use my 2 rage, and I'm able to defeat him by bringing down his health. It was a huge, big attack. I'm able to negate it, deal that big 5 damage to him before he can even dish out damage to me. And that is going to end tonight's game, folks. What a crazy turn of events. We had some big sidewind, you know, turns, stuff like that, but a lot of direct damage coming from this matchup. So let's look at the final stats. We had 13 combat damage from Beowulf. We had 11 direct damage from Ghost Rider, 26 damage blocked, and they were both left with 2 cards left at the end of the game. It was really, really close, especially with how many cards were used. But Beowulf and Ghost Rider are both not as efficient as fighters. It did take a long time to play the game, but Beowulf still rises up on top, defeating him. So that ends this whole 3 matches of the Hero Gauntlet. Beowulf is 2 for 1.